Welcome back to Predicting the NFL with Mickey G. It is yours truly, Mickey G. And last week we did not have our best week to say the least. We went 7-7, unfortunately. 1-0 in the game of the week, though. We did hit that. The Jags had a beautiful Monday night victory over the Chiefs. We also got the upset correct. We picked the Buccaneers to beat the Seahawks. I think they should have been favored no matter what, but that's just me. Crapfest, we were incorrect. The Dolphins decided to sell the bag against the Panthers for some reason. I don't know what they were cooking in that one. They had a 17-0 lead in the second quarter, and they lost it all. The Titans were able to win the Jersey game, so my pick was incorrect, but the Cardinals are bad, so narratives are being pushed, so I'm not totally against that, but it's fine. We are now 49-29 overall, which is actually the best through 5 weeks we have ever had still. So we're still doing really, really well to start off the season. And it's actually only the second time that we've had through 5 weeks, no weeks below 500. So not a bad spot there. 3-2 in games of the week, 3-2 in upsets, which is pretty impressive to have that in the win column there. Crapfest, we were 1-4, really bad on choosing those bad teams to win games. Jersey teams, our Jersey teams are 4-1, and our picks are 3-2. Historically, in week 6, we are 53-32, which is not anything spectacular, but not too shabby either. 4-1 in games of the week, 2-3 in upsets, 4-1 in Crapfest. Jersey teams are 2-0, and my picks are also 2-0. The best week we've ever had was actually last year. We went 13-1, excuse me, which is a hard bar to reach, but I believe in us. I think we can do it. Now, you might be wondering how the betting has been going. Not particularly great. So last week we finished off with 114.87 after, we put a couple bets in on the MLB playoffs. Dodgers still looking good. Red Sox unfortunately out, but now the Yankees lose, so they are out of there. And we moved that from 114 to 91.32, and we honestly probably could have stayed positive there, but I lost a lot of money on college football bets this week. That was kind of what was hitting me the most. I don't know why, but I thought I knew ball, and I really just don't when it comes to college football. I have too much bias. You think I have bias in the NFL? I have even more bias when it comes to college football. I just know less ball when it comes to that, but for the actual games themselves, we took $70 and we got 68.26. So even going 500, we almost got back to even, which is kind of impressive. Just the games that we did get correct this week. A lot of those were in the plus money. The Buccaneers, the Jaguars. I had a couple profit boosts, so I think the Cowboys gave us plus money as well. So all of those were pretty big wins. But that's enough about some sports betting. Let's talk about this week's predictions. First game of the week, tonight's game, the Thursday night game, is the Eagles at the Giants. The Giants had themselves a tough loss last week. They lost to the Saints. People were getting a little hyped up for them. I was getting a little hyped up for them. I thought they could beat a bad team like the Saints. Apparently, I was incorrect. They got taken down. However, the Eagles were also taken down by the Broncos. A nice win for them. A lot more passing in that game. Saquon's still yet to get it going. But here's the thing. The Giants are not a good team. The Eagles should be able to handle them pretty sufficiently. So I'm going with the Eagles here. Not too much to talk about in this one. The Eagles should win this one, and I think they will. Next is the Broncos at the Jets. Well, the Jets just had a rough one, and now they're doing it in London. They lost to the Cowboys last week. Broncos, I just said, they had that big win over Philly. Broncos should win this easily. Let's not talk about it. The Jets are the only team without a win so far this season, and I don't think it's going to come against the Broncos. I think that could potentially even come much later in the season, or maybe once they get rid of Justin Fields as their starting quarterback, Tyrod will come in and save the day for them. I mean, they're closest game with a good team was when he was in. They almost able to win that victory over the Buccaneers, but Fields there, I just don't think he has enough upside to win you those games. But Broncos should get this one here in London. Next is the Cardinals at the Colts. Well, we know my feelings on the Cardinals. I think they are bad. The Colts are doing pretty solid this season. I think they're looking like one of the top 10 teams in the league. I mean, they're 4-1 here. There's no reason to think that they aren't a good team. They haven't played, and they've played decent opponents. They beat the Broncos, who beat the Eagles, which is a pretty big win. So they should have no problem here taking care of business against the Cardinals. that's all there is to say about that one. Next is the Chargers at the Dolphins. Both these teams with disappointing losses last week. Chargers lost the game against the Commanders. Commanders bounced back win after their loss to the Falcons the week before. Chargers now on a 2-game slide, but they're also going up against Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins, who decided to lose their game against the Panthers. We already mentioned that earlier. They were the crap fest of the week. Chargers should win this one, even though their line is torn to shreds and having a lot of injuries in that area. The Dolphins are not a good football team, and Herbert usually shows out against the Dolphins, especially when Tua's on the other side. He's got to prove he's the better one, even though some people were confused by this for a while. We all know it's true now, but he likes to do it some more. So Chargers should get this one. Next is the Patriots at the Saints. This is our Jersey game of the week. If you can't tell, I got the Drew Brees on. Maybe thinking to yourself, is he picking the Saints? No, it's 2 weeks in a row where I'm not picking the Jersey team. I'm picking the Patriots. They got a big win last week over the Buffalo Bills. Saints got their 1 win of the season last week, upsetting the Giants. So that's all they're getting. And in Jersey games, this is actually the Patriots' first Jersey game ever. Kind of big deal. The Saints are 1-1 in Jersey games. My picks are 2-0. So I know I'm talking about when the Saints are in Jersey games. I think they're losing this one. They are losing this one. Patriots taking this. Next is the Browns at the Steelers. Browns decided to not take the bye coming out of London, which is a questionable move, especially when the Steelers are coming off a bye. So the Steelers have extra rest, whereas the Browns are jet lagged. They got Dylan Gabriel in his second career start. Not a big move there. They traded away Joe Flacco, so now Shadur is number 2. I think we might even get to see some Shadur in this game. I think the Steelers actually have a pretty big victory coming for them here. They're going to win this one big, and the Browns are going to end up putting Shadur because Gabriel's not going to be able to do anything. So that's my expectations for this one. Next is the Cowboys at the Panthers. Cowboys looked pretty solid last week. They did play against the Jets, so what does that mean? Panthers with the come-from-behind victory over the Dolphins, kind of a big deal. Cowboys should win this, though. Their offense is looking spectacular so far. Javonte Williams is having a really good season. And however, the Rico Dowdle revenge game might happen with Chuba probably out again this week. Don't think that's happening. I think he had his 1-game wonder last week against the Dolphins. I'm not expecting that to happen again. He might do decently, but I don't think he's going to get the 200 yards like he did last week. So Cowboys are getting this one. Next is the Seahawks at the Jags. I was considering this as an upset, but Jags are actually favored, and I was considering the game of the week. But after the loss last week, I don't think it makes sense for a 3-2 against a 4-1 to be the game of the week when we have a 4-1 down the stretch a little bit. So that being said, Sam Darnold had a backbreaking interception to lose it last week, and I think that's going to happen a few times in this game. Jags flying around getting turnovers. They picked 6th Patrick Mahomes and took it to the house. Jags looking good. They made a trade they sent Campbell to the Browns for Newsome, and both sides seem to like the trade, so that's good enough for me. I think the Jags are going to use that to try to help take care of JSN. I expect Hunter to play a lot of defense this week, and specifically for him to be watching at JSN. But either way, I think the Jags win this. I'm probably not picking the Jags to lose the game the rest of the season unless something real crazy happens and they just start losing game after game after game. But yeah, definitely taking the Jags in this one. Next is the Rams at the Ravens. Ravens not expected to have Lamar again this week. He's missed practice on Wednesday, and I don't believe he practiced today either. I'm not 100% on that. The reports have not been out at the time of recording. That being said, the Rams, after a tough loss last week against the Niners, are going to have to get back on track here. And the way this defense has been playing for Baltimore, this is a good team to do it again. So Stafford threw for almost 400 last week. There's no reason why he can't do it again this week, unless, of course, the run game actually locks in and he doesn't have to throw the ball that much. But Rams should easily get this one over the Ravens. Next is the Titans at the Raiders. This is our crap fest of the week. 2 of these teams that I have a feeling might be in these games a lot for the rest of the season. The Titans are 3-3 in the crap fest games. The Raiders are 2-3. My picks are 2-4 for the Titans and 3-2 for the Raiders. So right around that 500 spot, could go either way here. That being said, Raiders are at home, and I do think they do have some goodness in their team. They've just been playing some tough opponents recently, and they gotta just kind of figure out their identity. I think Gentles has a good chance to have a pretty solid game this week as well. So I'm going with the Raiders here. Also, I hate the Titans, so why would I pick them? Next is the Bengals at the Packers. Bengals are having a tough few games, playing some pretty strong opponents, and they decided that this was enough to bench Browning, which confuses me because I don't even know if Burrow would have won them the games against Minnesota, Denver, or Detroit. So the fact they're going up against the Packers, have a pretty solid defense as well, and to trade for Joe Flacco, who is less mobile than Browning and does similar things when just throwing the ball around. So I don't really understand this move. The Packers should be able to take care of business, especially coming off the bye. So Packers are getting this one. Next is our game of the week. This is the Niners at the Buccaneers. So interesting stats here, though. The San Francisco 49ers are 3-2 in games of the week. My picks are 1-4, whereas the Buccaneers are 0-3 in games of the week, and my picks are 2-1. So historically, not a great thing for the Buccaneers to be in games of the week. But that being said, I'm taking them in this one. They had a big win last week over Seattle, and I think they just find ways to win. And unless they're going up against the devil magic that the Eagles seem to have, they're able to do it. So I think they're going to go out there, and even though we do have the Mac attack again this week, and I do like the Mac attack, I don't think it's going to be enough to go up against this Buccaneers team. So Buccaneers and Baker getting this one. Next is the Lions at the Chiefs. Was considering making this game of the week, but the record's just not good enough for the Chiefs at this point, especially after that loss to the Jaguars, like we've mentioned before. Lions have also not been playing a lot of difficult opponents except for their Week 1 matchup. They played Packers Week 1, and then we saw them against the Bears and the Ravens, who were looking worse and worse. The Browns and the Bengals. This is probably the best opponent they've played all year, and I think the Chiefs are going to go out there and they're going to shock them, actually. This is an Arrowhead. This is where they like to play. They're just coming off a tough loss to the Jags that they didn't expect to happen. They're going to be full focus in here on this Lions team, and I think the Chiefs are going to go out there and they're going to get this one. And next we have our Monday night game. This is also our upset of the week. It's the Bills at the Falcons. Surprise, surprise. I'm taking the Falcons in this one. They're coming off the bye, and I know I've been saying that I think the Bills are the best team in the league, but that's not totally true. I had them number 1 in my power rankings, and now it seems like a bit of talking or walking back my thoughts, but they've been showing cracks all season long, and this was kind of just the camel that, or the whatever. Campbell's back broke, and they lost to the Patriots last week, and I think they might lose again. Coming off the bye, they have that extra week prepared for the Falcons, and Bills have looked a bit rough. Yeah, that's all there really is to say with it. I expect a big game from Josh Allen, but I just think his teammates are going to let him down, and the Falcons are going to be able to steal this one away. That being said, in upsets, Bills are 3-1. Falcons are 2-3. My picks are 2-2 for the Bills and 2-3 for the Falcons. So not a whole lot of read there, except for the fact that the Bills usually do well in these upset games, but I don't think they're doing well in this one. And our last game of the week is the Bears at the Commanders. Commanders with a big win last week over the Chargers. Bears coming off of the bye. Usually I pick teams when they're coming off the bye, but I just am not impressed with the Bears so far this season. They've beaten up on some weird teams, but this is going to be one of the better opponents that they've faced so far this year. I think that's going to be a big reason for it. Washington, I think, is getting this one. I like what they're doing. They looked really good last week with Daniels back on their side. Potentially McLaurin is coming back as well this week, so that could help them out a bit. But, yeah, I'm going with Washington in this one. I just am not seeing the Bears as that exciting, and also I think that Liam Cohen's better, and so take that. Bears fans, you wish you had Cohen. That being said, that's all the games this week. We do have the Vikings and the Texans on the bye, and the Vikings are a little exciting here because McCarthy is expected to come back from injury after the bye, so we'll see him instead of Wentz next week, which is a little disappointing because, I think we're having a little bit of fun with Wentz, and he did pretty well. I think he's 2-1 in his 3 games that he got to play, so it'll be interesting to see what McCarthy looks like and if they go back to Wentz instead of, not because of an injury, but just because they're trying to win some football games. But yeah, that's all for this week. I'm feeling a little tired today for some reason, so I'm a little all over the place, so I apologize for that if I'm not up to snuff. That being said, please make sure to drop a little like on the video if you made it all the way through, because that makes me feel good. But that's all for this week. Stop by next week and I'll see you later.